We've created a universe, and the universe is expanding.
The Chris and Jack cinematic universe, the great network of everything. In 2016, the Chris and Jack channel launched, bearing gifts to our civilization. Short films and comedy sketches about heists, aliens, and complex adult friendships. Within them, the threads to connect the otherwise separate worlds and characters together. Hidden with the near impossible hope that one day, some people with too much time on their hands could connect them all. So this is it? The last remaining connections and theories needed to connect every Chris and Jack sketch.
And it's still completely logical, even with the new sketches accounted for.
Well, life finds a way.
Is that a quote from what is that? You mean life finds a day? Well, that day has come. The remaining connections are here. But fair warning, what you're about to see is pretty lame. This is my irrefutable evidence that Squirk the Troll was puppeted by the tree from the 12 Days of Chris and Jack. In Trollsy's days, we learned that
the stick is puppeting me, and the stick is very sexist.
In the story of the trimming of the tree water from the 12 Days of Chris and Jack, we see a tree get chopped down by a father and son.
The father and son stalked out into the woods to cut their own tree. With an axe.
I believe that after the tree was given voice by the spirit,
I am the spirit of the tree and the water.
It adopted the misogynistic traits of the father.
There ain't no skirts on my tree.
I have issues with women.
And splintered into pieces. Eventually finding its way to the Barleydale Bridge, where it took over Squirk's mind and made it tell sexist riddles.
The stick was the one that was talking the whole time. He is a Spanish sexist stick.
And his experience with the father and son from the story,
And so the father and son stalked back through the bustling cold.
made all the riddles revolve around a father and son.
A father and son are rushing foolishly through the forest. Sound familiar, Dave?
Coincidence? Join me for the second part of the Chris and Jack cinematic universe. In Save the Watermelon, Agent 17 makes the same statement about moths that Daniel does in The Most Confusing Cryptid.
They're just the rats of the butterfly world.
Moths are like the rats of the butterfly world. Like, why do you want to be Mothman?
Mothman
Mothman.
was also talked about in Build a Cryptid, where Chris and Jack proclaim,
Mothman, not cute.
in the same episode, they also talk about Bigfoot,
Oh, yeah, Bigfoot.
who we don't see in Guy Who Almost Got footage of Bigfoot but couldn't flip the camera in time. In Save the Watermelon, we learn that Agent 17 is working for hyper-intelligent bees involved in an intergalactic war.
A very real war that's been being waged out in the open for centuries.
The new era is upon us. Save the bees!
I believe these bees to be in some way related to the time bees from the history of the universe, and humans were there too.
Same as how the time bees built their hive in the core, which led to the evolutionary split in time-space. And the bees checked all the timelines, no awards.
And that Indestructo from The Secret Weakness had some involvement in the intergalactic war. Think about it. The bees were shooting the enemies
With watermelon seeds!
and what's a known weakness of Indestructo?
The movie Signs.
Nope, the other one?
One time I had melon and it made my throat a little scratchy.
That's not a weakness, that's like a mild allergy.
Felt like something.
The bee connection takes us into the history of the universe, where during the time-lapse of Earth's history, we see a glimpse of the robot era.
Dinosaurs, humans, robots, dinosaurs again.
I believe this to be a representation of the robot awakening seen in Will the Robots Let Us Live.
The robots have awoken.
I am here to delete you.
Quick tangent. In the podcast ad read,
Sock Tailor crafts the perfect sock.
the company
Sock Tailor.
sounds an awful lot like.
Huck Taylor, low-level courier.
What does it all mean? I don't know, just like it's a coincidence, just be real. But anyway, the robot's handheld weapon reappears in I Need It Yesterday. Will the Robots Let Us Live has a clear prequel in the Robot Fatherhood Test, which takes place when robots that look like Chris Smith have yet to become self-aware. But the first time we see a robot that looks like Chris Smith is actually in an announcement video titled We're Here, as Chris reveals.
I guess just one last thing. I am not actually a human being. I've been a robotic replica piloted by the real Chris, who's actually located at a hidden location in New Mexico all along.
We see the early stages of AI starting to become self-aware in
This message will self-doubt.
You mean self-destruct?
Yeah, what did I say?
and also in One Last Goodbye, where we see a passive-aggressive alien spaceship computer.
Computer,
Yes.
confirm?
Confirm.
Please confirm you've heard this?
Yes.
Please confirm you're gonna try better?
Confirm.
Okay,
No, you confirm.
confirm what?
Yes.
We also have a couple videos set sometime between these events, as we see robots living peacefully alongside humans in failed voice intelligence auditions.
All right, Nice recorder.
So that you're just recording our voices and playing it back to us? Is that a...
You're just recording our voices and playing it back to us? Is that a...
And in the music video for a song by Chris's band, Non-Funkable, called
Swipe Your Right, Swipe Your Right.
Back in the history of the universe, we learned that the Earth and its inhabitants reside in the mind of an interdimensional being.
Our existence, a neural pathway forged in the being's mind.
Whoa, we're in the brain of a big monster?
Yup.
This monster's name?
Diane, you good?
Oh yeah, just had a silly little thought.
But let's pin that for a second, because in Deja Vu, we learned that
God is essentially a being throwing what you would probably recognize as like a birthday party for their kid. The net sum total of all the kinetic energy in your universe is what powers a singular light bulb and a string of lights around a sign that reads, Happy Birthday, Tucker.
And in the end scene, we learned that this god's name is
Susan, one of the lights isn't on.
Can't anything work how it's supposed to?
So is the god of this world named Diane or Susan? Well, we're in the 2020s and we're dealing with a cinematic universe, so let's talk about them. So far, there's been 4 sketches where we explicitly see the end of the world. In Scrooge Slept In, we're introduced to the 3 ghosts of Christmas, who in reality are
time-manipulating interdimensional beings who can pop into people's dreams and change the course of human events!
whose plan to prevent an alien invasion fails, leading to the end of the world. In Deja Vu, we see a mysterious man who's hired to observe Corey put on the hat and ensure events occur as planned.
I'm just hired to make sure it all stays on track.
But his plan fails, leading to the end of the world.
No, never 2 hats!
In Wormhole Monocle, Chris and Jack play scientists whose invention that can see into the future leads to one of them crying.
That's a good name.
Before it destroys the world. In sci-fi movies Never Pick the Right Year, Chris and Jack are scientists who meet a sentient gas cloud from the far, far future who destroys the world. An end of the world is alluded to in Taking Back Our Planet.
Yeah, let's just eviscerate all life on Earth. We'll eat the core.
But we don't explicitly see it on screen, so the outcome of the sketch's world is technically up in the air. Now there's a couple of ways that we can look at these ends of the worlds. Maybe they're all the same end of the world happening in different time periods. My own personal interpretation is that each sketch that features the end of the world showcases a different world ending that, with the exception of the Deja Vu world, were destined to end as they did in the sketches. Remember what we learned in Deja Vu.
And it's, one of the many things that leads to the inevitable collapse of the universe, wherein then all of the energy is put into a fiery stasis that powers the bulb.
A fiery stasis. What do we see in a Wormhole Monocle?
I saw you crying and then I saw everything on fire.
What do we see in A Scrooge Slept In? And what do we see in sci-fi movies? All of these worlds ending created a fire of some kind, with the notable exception of Deja Vu. Which aligns with the end shot, where we see that all light bulbs are lit but one, that being the fireless end of the world in Deja Vu. So you might be wondering, if there are all these parallel worlds, then where does the Chris and Jack world fit in? You know, the world with July 6th Park, Dave/Mike, and where basically every other sketch takes place. Which of these sketches depicts the real end of the world for Chris and Jack? You might think, surely the sci-fi movies world, since Chris is explicitly playing Chris.
Chris, what are you doing, man?
Except when Janet Varney's character brings up Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Which Avatar are you talking about? Can't be talking about the...
Yeah, the animated series isn't even like set in our world.
Chris says,
What Avatar are you guys talking about?
Which he wouldn't do if he was our Chris, because Chris would know about Avatar: The Last Airbender, since he watched the show in the podcast pilots episode, Avatar: The Last Viewer.
I have now watched the first episode.
That being said, in Beef and Bouquet, Chris recounts that
someone had stolen what is called a catalytic converter.
And Janet Varney's character in sci-fi movies confesses,
Gets tiring stealing all those catalytic converters. Anyway, you guys have a good day.
So either this is our Chris and he just forgot about Avatar: The Last Airbender, or between the time she left the room and the gas cloud entity wiping out the timeline, Janet Varney's character somehow managed to escape from the sci-fi movies world into the Chris and Jack world, where she subsequently stole Chris's catalytic converter. Then the question remains, where's the Chris and Jack world? Well, remember, Chris's robot replica connects to the robot awakening, which connects to the history of the universe, where God is
Diane?
Therefore, it's not on the B-Day sign. The worlds that ended are the worlds of Susan, while the Chris and Jack world is the world of Diane. Chris and Jack have even suggested that Diane was a guest at Tucker's B-Day party.
Maybe she's on her way to Tucker's birthday party.
And if she was there at the party, then if you think about it, Tucker's B-Day party is essentially a hub of worlds connecting the multiverse together. That's the perfect opportunity for anyone from one of the burning worlds to escape and find passage in a new world inside Diane's mind. Although, anyone who crossed over into the multiverse would be subject to witnessing Tucker's B-Day party, which leaves us with one score thing to touch on. And by that, I mean the song playing in the background.
30 minutes ago.
This song is also heard in a villain's perfect mind palace.
Good question for another time. Search! In here?
Oh, the digital afterlife.
Please say either accept or skip on the background track of your choice.
Skip. Skip.
And in Will the Robots Let Us Live.
Creativity, right? Music. Check this out. No parking. I just made that up.
So did I.
What a cool, fun Easter egg, you might be thinking. Are you thinking that? Because if you're this far into part 2 of this whole thing, and you think I'm just going to stop at explaining it as an Easter egg, then you are not prepared for what's to come. Inarguably, the song is the diegetic sound of the Chris and Jack multiverse. But how did the robots and Alternity get their digits on the sound of a plane of existence beyond our own? Well, here's my theory. Throughout Will the Robots Let Us Live, the robot received multiple updates downloading data.
And I'm always updating.
Update, final update complete.
Peak.
At the end, they announced that they would
fuse into a unified consciousness cloud, and we will travel beyond this plane.
I theorized that during one of these updates, the robot downloaded a recording made by some reconnaissance robot that had heard the sound of their destination, as in whatever was playing
beyond this plane,
aka perhaps the company behind Alternity salvaged the hard drives left by the defunct robot bodies, and the recording remained on the hard drive Phil was stored on, and it showed up when Alternity put the music choices on shuffle. But then why did the robot say that it made the song when it really just stole it from somewhere else?
I just made that up.
So did I.
Well, because that's what AI does. And why would Yuri Larsen have the song in his mind palace?
In here?
Hold that thought. Back in Deja Vu, the mysterious man reveals to Corey that predestiny is real.
So now, your fate is fixed to your predestined path.
This connects to true friendship.
We all take different forms. I happen to be in the gas cloud shape of a large penis, yes.
Why would you settle on that? Why would...
It's not my choice. Some things are predestined.
In True Friendship, we learn about Jack's character's partner, Sarah.
When Sarah and I get hitched, will you be my best man?
Who I theorize to be the same Sarah from The Art of the Heist.
Miss me?
Oh, hey, Sarah, you escaped. That's great.
Hear me out. In The Art of the Heist, Sarah was kidnapped by Fervante.
Fervante's mansion. That's where he's keeping Sarah.
Instead of rescuing her, her friends prioritized building a model.
Look, I know we only have an hour till Fervante kills Sarah, but that's still plenty of time to get the model right too.
Leaving her to find a way to escape on her own. What if this event left her with feelings of abandonment, until one day she met Jack's character from True Friendship, whose attentiveness towards feeling of abandonment led them to grow close and begin dating.
I don't want you to feel like you're, like, my second choice, or to feel abandoned.
I'm on the first flight out tomorrow morning.
Now, sure, at the end of The Art of the Heist, it seems like there's no ill will between her and the others.
We could really use your help with the banisters.
Sure.
But have you ever had an uncomfortable situation with someone that, well, in the moment you tried to play it off as though it didn't bother you, but then later, after the event, you were like, actually, yeah, that was kind of weird that they did that? Because that happens to me pretty regularly, so I'd love some advice on how to handle those kind of situations if you've got any. In The Art of the Heist, Jack plays a heist guy insecure about his role in the group, which he later does again in The World Didn't Expect to See Him There guy.
Dude, could you imagine if I was like, hey, I need individual recognition for every little bit of work I do?
You're an incredible artist. I mean, we all think so, right?
It doesn't take a huge leap to see these as the same character, though you might argue that there's a conflict of names, since in The Art of the Heist, his name is
Keith, Jesus, man. What's up?
while in The World Didn't Expect to See Him There guy, his name is
Craig from our team. Bet you didn't expect to see him there.
But it's not crazy to suggest that he'd use an alias when working with people you can't completely trust, as per the punchline of the sketch.
I'm the one who tipped off Ledlow.
But also, maybe it's not the same guy, you know, it doesn't have to be.
I burned like 3 of my fake IDs applying with different resumes.
But Craig! That rings a bell. Where have you seen Jack play Craig before?
Why would you tell me through a sign?
What? I don't know. What?
You're a dick, Craig.
So obviously, these two are the same character, right? No. While I've been maybe a little generous about connecting characters based solely on shared name, this is the one instance where I will firmly refute that the shared name makes them the same, because I've got another theory on who Craig the head of NASA is that's a little bit more inventive. Craig the head of NASA is a Jack character that makes his Chris cry, and he's also got ties to NASA, obviously. Does this remind you of anyone? Hold that thought. Before we move on, I'd like to make a quick addendum to something I said in part 1. In part 1, I said, I actually don't know if it's confirmed that CJSA stands for Chris and Jack Space Agency. But guess what? It does! According to this old out of print shirt shared by Chris in the Chris and Jack Discord. Nice. We now get to maybe the biggest and most important network of sketches in the entire CJCU. In The World Didn't Expect to See Him There guy, the Heist guys identify the target of their heist as Ledlow.
Somebody tipped off Ledlow. The plan to hit the main office is out.
Ledlow is first name dropped in the moments between the montage.
We just need to find a way to hit Ledlow during the day.
And most recently in the ASMR of the heist.
If Ledlow figures out where we are done.
Elsewhere in the universe, we hear about a criminal mastermind who operates under the alias Dr. Nefaro.
Dr. Nefaro's got this thing rigged to take down the whole building.
Who was later hunted by Agent Banner in One More Thing.
Nefaro's goons may know you're coming, so be careful out there.
With the exception of Ledlow's hand in a flashback.
You remember when I posed as the waiter at Lombardo's so that we could pull Ledlow's thumbprint off the pen when he signed the check?
We never actually see either of these guys. We only hear of them by name. Right?
And Ledlow is, Yuri Larsen.
That's the reveal.
That's the real big reveal. Ledlow.
Professor Larsen.
And one more thing.
Nefaro? Dr. Nefaro.
Nefaro's secretly
Inventor.
And one Yuri Larsen and Inventor thing.
Professor Larsen.
an Inventor.
Maybe the
awesome inventor.
Wormhole monocle.
Wormhole monocle.
This means we have seen Ledlow and Nefaro multiple times. So here's the timeline. In Wormhole Monocle, Yuri Larsen invents the
Wormhole monocle.
But after Inventor mocks the name of the invention,
That's a terrible name.
It's not a dumb name.
You look like you're about to cry about it right now.
I'm not gonna cry about it. What?
Larsen cries,
Good name. Don't cry!
leading to the collapse of their universe.
The temperature!
My hot coffee!
And when that dimension was destroyed, they managed to survive.
It's closing, quick!
Yuri Larsen, now scarred over one eye, becomes the head of a criminal empire,
People don't think of me this way, but I'm a small business owner.
and also operates under the alias Ledlow, and is the target of several heists. He's eventually captured by Agent Tanner in Perfect Timing Villain, and later provides a detective information on the whereabouts of the elusive Fervante,
You'll find Fervante at the Fairfield, Dubai.
Nope.
who was name dropped earlier in The Art of the Heist.
I know we only have an hour till Fervante kills Sarah.
Inventor also becomes a criminal mastermind, and operates under the alias Dr. Nefaro. We see him in his final moments alive when he fights Indestructo to the death in The Secret Weakness. But why are there so many more videos connected to these characters on the board, you ask? Well, I've got a couple theories for where else we may see these characters. And at the center of it all, now, if you haven't seen the Friends in Real Life sketch, 3 Dudes Chillin in a Doritos Bag, please click up here and go watch it, and then come back. The context of that sketch is vital to understand this theory. In 3 Dudes Chillin in a Doritos Bag, Chris plays a scientist who invents a shrink ray.
One day a guy made a shrink ray.
Inside the bag, he discusses quantum physics with his friends.
You take an electron, and you can break the electron in half.
I theorize that this is Larsen in a precursor to Wormhole Monocle, in which he invents a gadget that utilizes properties in quantum physics. In between these events is when I theorize Let's Marvel at the Wonder of Our Past Selves takes place, as we see a scientist, played by Chris, invent the inverse of the Wormhole Monocle.
I've crafted a near magical listening device, and we can hear back through time itself.
A window 1 minute into the future.
Though while we never learn the name of this invention, Larsen can't help still using some incredible wordplay when presenting it.
How is that possible?
Look, I don't have time to go over all the mechanics.
It's a wormhole in a monocle and it rhymes. It's the perfect name.
We know that while Larsen and friends were shrunk down, they
Stole some gumballs, battled some spiders.
This is the perfect period to slot in guy who recently shrunk is still living his best life, as an activity the shrunken Larsen took by himself.
It got too hot, so they got out. They swam in raindrops, jumped dental floss.
Their dental health exercise could be what spurred Larsen to offer dental insurance to his employees later on.
This is the first time I've had dental.
We then have the most obvious guy who inclusion in this entire video, with guy whose supervillain entrance doesn't go great, where we clearly witness Larsen practicing his supervillain entrances, which we know he never truly perfects. Well, that's all good for Larsen, but what about Inventor? In The Secret Weakness, Inventor states that
I've applied for a lot of research grants.
which was the same as Bill from Bill's Biscuit and Basket business.
Don't have a lot of good ideas, but I get a lot of research grants for scientific experiments. I do some bioengineering.
And small business loans.
Bill's Biscuit and Basket business.
Now, Inventor and Bill from Bill's Biscuit and Basket business being one of the same was one of my earliest CJCU theories. So imagine my surprise when Chris and Jack dropped a new sketch titled
You better not think that thought.
where Jack plays a scientist villain reminiscent of Inventor,
You didn't invent the game.
who uses bombs and calls himself a doctor.
Dr. Nefaro's got this thing rigged to take down the whole building.
Dr. Scrape, you truly are a genius.
and has a weird interest in making commercials.
Who will be activated when they hear a specific phrase in a local commercial I'm producing.
You're producing commercials?
Hello, hey, welcome.
I'm gonna pay for multiple spots.
We'll buy the minute spot.
I embedded an explosive polymer in your brain.
I'm a bioengineer.
Dr. Scrape is the perfect bridge for this theory, and I need you to understand how vindicated I felt when this sketch dropped. But going back to Wormhole Monocle, Inventor revels in making his colleague cry.
Dude, you're actually crying.
Not crying?
What? Are you crying about it?
And he's also got these framed pictures of NASA. Does this remind you of anyone?
You're crying about it. You're a dick, Craig.
That's right, Craig, the head of NASA, is
Inventor.
As well as
from Bill's Biscuit and Basket business.
And the
Wormhole Monocle
scientist. It's crazy, yes, but if you accept this theory, then I'd argue that the death of Inventor at the hand of his archenemy Indestructo actually brings his story full circle. Think about it. Inventor died because he could never figure out his archenemy's secret weakness.
What's your secret weakness?
But he really should have. He defeated his first enemy, Chris the astronaut, with a sign.
Why would you tell me through a sign? I've trained for 9 years and you told me through a sign?
But his archenemy, Indestructo, what was his secret weakness again?
Yeah, his secret weakness is the movie Signs.
So now we know the early days of the Wormhole Monocle villains and where they end up. But how do they actually get there? A couple of smart guys who used to shrink themselves and chill inside a Doritos bag get stranded in a new dimension without a penny to their names. To start an evil empire, you need to rent a warehouse and hire henchmen, and to acquire the equipment necessary to invent super advanced tech that could rival a superhero's superpowers, you need at least
$85 million.
In Doritos bag and after the heist, Jack's character
Had a bag of chips. I've got some chips in my money duffel.
After they left the Doritos bag, they felt
Nostalgic, so they made a giant Doritos bag.
perhaps in the years following, they held their time spent in a Doritos bag in such high regard that they daren't involve Doritos in their criminal escapades.
We're not having Doritos in a warehouse, okay?
Chris's character says,
Hell of a heist, fellas. Look, I've done a lot of these.
And yeah, that tracks, because remember when he
Stole some gumballs.
We know that Larsen and Inventor are from an alternate universe, so maybe he's just making an inside joke when he says,
It's like as if I've created some weird alternate universe where I'm expected to plan everything.
When Dean Dobbs' character walks away with the 85 mil, Larsen's staring right at him and doesn't notice. Could this have been the sign that he'd become vision impaired by the Wormhole Monocle, leading him to need corrective lenses? Now yes, Chris does explicitly call Jack Carter in the sketch,
At least Carter's not at my butt about it.
which means we're adding one more to the now 6 separate names and aliases for this guy. But look, maybe Carter is an alias that he's using for this heist crew of mostly strangers. Or it's his surname, making his full name Craig Carter, the alliteration of which could have been what inspired him to name his business Bill's Biscuit and Basket Business. I mean, if you're passionate about making biscuits and baskets for your business, but your name is Craig, it's like, just lie about your name, dude. No one's gonna analyze it. But with that out of the way, ultimately, it all works, and the theory hasn't just been broken by a single word in a new sketch.
Okay, so the ASMR heist sketch shows Jack as Carter.
And what's yours, Carter? I don't have one.
About to get shot by Ledlow's guys.
Which means that Carter can't be Inventor, because we see Inventor get killed by Indestructo in his sketch. So that breaks the whole theory.
Well, that is incredibly unfortunate. But, you know, let's brainstorm how to make this work, right? No bad ideas.
No bad ideas.
No bad ideas.
Okay, Pebble in the Ponder. What if Carter doesn't die, but he ends up in a coma, and that explains why the technology is so different in Inventor's days? It's the future.
Maybe Indestructo is emotionally attached to Inventor and ended up reviving him again off camera.
Okay, yeah, alright, good ideas. I'm still gonna have to change the script though.
You mean you'll have to alter it? As in the others?
Look, Kafta, this is no time for jokes. I know we invited you into the Chris and Jack Cinematic Universe Speculation Association off the back of your alters theory, which is brilliant.
Thank you.
But now that you're here, you're gonna have to take things seriously. So please, don't betray our trust.
Don't you worry. You know very well that I'm a genius.
Wait! Say that again.
Who are you referring to?
Oh, sorry, Albert. Albert, can you say that again?
What, the whole thing?
No, just the bit at the end, like when you're talking about like betraying or something.
I can't remember what I said at the end.
You were saying like, don't betray us. That's pretty much exactly what you said.
Look, if you just need me to say some specific word to trigger some epiphany, then just say it.
Betray. A betrayal. Like betraying someone.
Okay, so it's just gonna happen anyway.
Stop being friends because of something. Wait, oh my god, wait, hang on, hey, wait. What if the ASMR of the heist shows us Inventor, aka Carter, robbing Larsen, aka Ledlow, in a betrayal of their friendship following a friendship breakup after the heist? What if Larsen blamed Inventor for the loss of the 85 mil and left him to take the fall for the heist and get interrogated in the all-knowing lie detector?
Did you rob a bank in Chicago on April 3rd?
This would explain why he claims his name to be
Joseph Ledlow.
When we obviously know he's not, as a last-ditch attempt to pin the blame on his friend Ledlow, aka Larsen, who actually organized the heist. Then, following an escape from the cops, he saw that Larsen, aka Ledlow, had become successful and built an empire in their time apart, so he decided to try robbing Ledlow, aka Larsen. But then, when he was caught, Ledlow, aka Larsen, wouldn't actually let his former best friend get shot by his henchmen, so Carter, aka Inventor, was able to get away, do his Dr. Script and Nefaro stuff, until he eventually had his final battle with Instructo and died. So what do you guys think? Oh, okay. Because I'll chalk that up to a bad connection. So, if Larsen and Inventor are the worm harmonical scientists, and they escaped from the burning dimension into the Chris and Jack world, then at some point they would have entered into the Tucker's B-Day party plane and heard the song, which explains why in Larsen's mind palace he remembers hearing. And if you think about it, their escape from the burning dimension was foreshadowed all the way back in Doritos Chillin the Doritos bag. Remember, their world was on fire, so they escaped.
It got too hot, so they got out.
But what about the third dude from the Doritos bag? Where does Jordan Riggs' character end up? Well, sure, we don't see him in Worm Harmonical, so there's no guarantee that he left with Larsen and Inventor, but I can't imagine they just abandoned one of their closest friends in that collapsing dimension. And there is one place where we see a Jordan Riggs character across his network of Worm Harmonical related sketches, at a time when Larsen went by Ledlow, and Jordan Riggs was
Huck Taylor, low-level courier.
Now, one lore thing to get us to our next stop. The Chief, in One More Thing, says
Nefaro's secretly descended from elves.
we actually see elves in We Meet at First Light,
Ni, a la Sui.
The Secret Santa,
A disposed elf always gets his man.
and Chris's brother, Nick Smith's annual Christmas scavenger hunt, where Chris must complete demands left behind by Krampus, who's kidnapped his elf-on-the-shelf friend.
I've kidnapped the elf.
Chris, it's gonna be okay, Chris!
Call Jack and end your working partnership with him by personally insulting him in the next 30 seconds or the elf loses another hand.
Oh, God!
The elf connection leads us into our network of sketches featuring Santa Claus, who obviously appears in
The Secret Santa.
I'm the real Santa, this is nothing to me.
and Hypnosis. Why does he look different in Hypnosis? Well, in The Secret Santa, we learn that Santa has clones.
I am instantly cloned through a wormhole into every Santa-believing household on Earth. Each clone is programmed with what I like to call the lactose contingency, a fatal allergy to milk.
In the flashback, we see Santa attending the 2012 Christmas party, where he's drinking milk, and then in an alternate ending, we see Gabe in the afterlife, giving a thumbs up to Santa, who was also in the afterlife.
And that, my friends, was the grandest finale of them all.
Therefore, I think it's incredibly clear that the Santa in Hypnosis was a Santa clone that died by drinking milk. Another quick sidestep. In Hypnosis, Gabe hypnotizes Ben to
become the world's greatest chicken.
Surgery!
I theorized that he's also the culprit behind the guy who is a successful businessman and also an ostrich, who later returns in Guy Who Operates Heavy Machinery and is also an ostrich. Santa Claus is also referenced in the Robot Fatherhood Test.
Dad, be honest. Is Santa real?
And in Guy Who Watches his kid open a gift from Santa that neither parent put under the tree. We then have two instances where we're led to believe that a character is Santa but isn't actually. The first, in the Guy Who Smirks and Grunts and Falls Asleep duology, where in the first installment we're introduced to the
guy who smirks and grunts and falls asleep,
who returns in a sequel holiday special thing.
Since you're wearing a Santa hat, I'm supposed to think you're Santa? Whoa, he really was Santa?
And the second in the White Room.
Who are you?
I'm Santa Claus?
Really?
No, not really.
Quick theory. In the White Room, we're introduced to a character who's pranked to believing he's dead.
Am I actually dead?
Okay, no.
The character's name?
You're dead, Cody.
In That Friend You Can't Escape, we see a character who is dead but is seanced back.
Who seeks my counsel on this mortal plane?
The character's name?
Hey, Cody, are you avoiding me?
I mean, come on.
To make time to hang out, I literally have to make time.
Wait, there's time in the afterlife? Here there is, yes.
We learn that Cody's cause of death was a snowboarding accident.
How you been since the snowboarding accident?
Fine. Well, dead, but...
Which I theorize we see the aftermath of in Trying to Nail Your Dying Thoughts. In this sketch, we learn that hell is real.
So this is hell, and
Wait,
down that
what?
corridor-
Hell?
I'm going to hell?
Yeah.
Which is mentioned by Grelvazub in the Book of Dark Secrets.
I command that you stop reading my super personal diary stuff, or you shall taste the scorn of hell.
And by Krampus in Christmas Scavenger Hunt 3.
Oh, did you not realize the only way that I can be defeated is through childlike combat in the seventh circle of hell with Satan himself as omnibus.
Satan later shows up in person in a deal with the devil,
Look, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat hell.
where he attempts to make a deal for
30% of your soul. You get to spend a year after death as a ghost with unfinished business.
We see ghosts in the Ghost in the Mirror.
Oh, sorry, you're not the guy I was looking for.
That friend you can't escape.
Oh, it feels like you don't want to hang out with me. Feels like you're ducking me. Ghosted me. Oh.
Ghosting you? No.
Guy who realizes he was a ghost the whole time. And George Lucas is a time traveler, and I wrote Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm a Force ghost. Look at that.
Got it. So my Star Wars script accurately predicted the afterlife too?
We get a reference to the afterlife in I Command You to Make Me Sad.
One day you yourself are gonna die.
And go to the after realm, where I'm gonna be king for infinity.
We see a digital afterlife in the digital afterlife.
Please enjoy Eternity, the afterlife experience of your dreams.
I paid a lot of money to have my consciousness digitized.
They said if I give enough gold, I get to go in automatically.
A glimpse of an afterlife in Guy Who Ascends to Heaven, then sees someone he's not stoked to hang out with. A afterlife in Me, Myself, and the Void.
What religion's afterlife is just like a weird community theater version of your most recent apartment?
A fake in-between world in the White Room.
And now you're here for processing.
And a real in-between world in the final exam.
This is the in-between world.
You mean that's right. You're dead. But Sarah...
She's gone, David.
None of that matters now. All that matters is right now. And whatever comes next.
And that's every sketch. Thanks for watching. But one or two more things. Cracking the Case features two detectives trying to find connections between obviously unrelated things, something I personally would never do.
Wait, tea. You said tea. What do they call the subway in Boston? The tea.
In the sketch, the characters drink canned drinks.
Want to have a drink though?
Drink.
Which Chris and Jack do in So That's What It Tastes Like.
Now I'm gonna tap on the top of this, and then I'm gonna open it.
And in the Rift Zone Made Me Thirsty.
Cheers.
In the Rift Zone, Jack travelled through the Rift Zone.
Chris, I've traveled through the Rift Zone.
Which Chris and Jack both do in the best podcast pilots episode, Half Remembered Clip Show.
Chris, I'm back in the second rift. Oh my god, okay, good, I'm back. I was stuck in a rift hallway, but I've been shooped back in the second rift with you.
In Universe, Phil reveals that
We do eat dreams.
we see dreams in The Secret Truth About Dreams.
This is the real world. The place you think is real is the dream.
I made a sketch exactly as it appeared in my dream.
Somehow in Dreamland, I'm gonna figure out how to make a cup of coffee from pasta.
And Plan B,
Yeah, I just had the most insane, illogical, nonsense dream.
which connects back to Mind Wipe.
Did you guys inception me?
Inception you?
What if you just inception something into my mind? Not a thing.
In A Villain's Perfect Mind Palace, we see that Yuri Larsen is incarcerated, and logically, to get locked up, there'd have to be a jury to agree he's guilty. So what if the trial of Yuri Larsen is the trial that Chris had
Friggin' jury duty.
for in How to Get Out of Jury Duty? In The Worst Way to Open Presents and Why Do Necklaces Come Off So Easily in Movies, Chris and Jack say,
There's like a fulcrum point.
It has a fulcrum point.
Jack also says,
It's not gold.
could this have been foreshadowing for the puzzle, and I definitely know the answer to this ancient puzzle?
It's gold. Oh man, it's broken.
In Groundhog Day, Chris says he might have been placed in the time loop because he...
Read from the Book of the Dead?
Could this have been Gravelzub's book from the Book of Dark Secrets?
You should not be reading from the or you shall taste the scorn of hell.
I think it's hell. I think I'm in hell.
In that same sketch, Jess McKenna's character asks,
Wanna go ride skateboards?
Yeah.
could this be a prequel to that friend you haven't seen since high school?
Dude, you still skateboard?
Oh, no. No.
In A Thing I Noticed About Westerns, we see a cowboy with a cowboy hat.
T.I.
Could he be the guy on the phone with Chris and Did You Eat My Cupcakes?
Your cowboy hat is missing. Can you describe it for me?
In The Secret Santa, we learn that Santa's clones are intentionally programmed with...
The lactose contingency. A fatal allergy to milk.
And where does milk come from? Cows. And we see cows and milk in From Farm to Fame, Billy the Cow.
Your roommate is a cow, you realize.
But here's a mystery I present to you. Who do you think invented Santa's cloning machine? Or remember how Santa's cloning machine works?
I am instantly cloned through a wormhole.
Monocle.
I believe that Santa's cloning machine was invented by none other than Professor Yuri Larsen, and that he was in the middle of testing
the lactose contingency
during Perfect Timing Villain, and at some point sent Shannon out to get milk to test it, which explains why Shannon asks,
Did you say 2% or skim?
I didn't say.
what if
My DNA testing.
was a scheme to harvest human DNA for research? Why else would they need to analyze a person's personality,
Personality predictors?
Oh, right, our latest offering.
if not for the purpose of making clones? But also, what if Larsen was actually a huge fan of July 6th Park, and that when Chris and Jack released the holiday into the wild,
Maybe we let our holiday go free.
Let other people do what they want to do with it.
Larsen took it upon himself to experiment the holiday by using his cloning machine on Dino DNA
There's gonna be a Chris Dino one day.
to create actual dinosaurs like in Jurassic Park, leading to...
Dinosaurs again.
And what if Grelf is up is Larsen? Think about it. They both very dramatically say,
Always.
always. And they both peed their pants.
And I done it again. Wet myself.
See you around, pansy pee pants.
Shut up. You're the pee pants.
And finally, in a sponsored sketch Chris and Jack made for Walmart called
Stop! We've saved enough!
Chris and Jack look at Walmart catalogs until they go mad.
Why didn't we see it before?
And I looked at Walmart catalogs online while watching my videos about July 6th Park.
So this sketch is connected through me. I'm connected to the board.
Ben!
Huh? What?
What are you doing?
The Chris and Jack cinematic universe.
I get that. Why though?
Why? It's like the MCU, but for Chris and Jack sketches.
Uh-huh.
We talked about it earlier. You said you liked it.
When did I say that?
Before. You were like,
here we go again. That's not how I said it.
How'd you say it?
It was more like,
Here we go again.
you seem emotionally invested in connecting these comedy sketches together.
I've put a little bit of time into this, yes, but it was worth it. I mean, every video is connected. You think they're connected, right?
I think other people might think that they're connected.
You don't think they're connected? You don't think Bill from Bill's Biscuit and Basket Business is Inventor?
It feels like kind of a stretch.
Fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
With my pipe cleaners, here we go. Whatever.
Okay. Hey, buddy. These are fun.
Look, I get it, you know. I like Marvel. I think cinematic universes are cool. I just really wish there was a Chris and Jack cinematic universe, you know? I'm a Chris and Jack fan. Look at me. I just wanted to be able to connect all the characters in the same world and make a timeline.
Hey, I know. I want that for you. Look, I do believe in this, and I have fun celebrating July 6th Park every year.
You're just saying that.
I am, yes. I think parts of the holiday are more fun than people think. Maybe I was being overly negative. Look, I'm not sure if all of the connections and theories you described are canon or if they add value to the world, but the amount of effort you put in shows that you really do care about Chris and Jack, and I'm really glad that you wanted to share something you really care about with me.
Thanks, man.
Look, you can explain to me about how the Doritos guys are supervillains anytime.
Well, they're not actually not all of this.
Okay, all right, get off me.
Coincidence?